Welcome back to another video here on the channel. My non-Bitcoin videos are usually a bit more personal and this one is no exception. Today I want to talk about the differences between a manager schedule and a maker schedule, my own experiences with the two and how they have been quite revealing lately. I also want to talk about how Gumroad is currently building the greatest company for makers ever. I learned about the two terms from Paul Graham. He describes them as follows. First, the manager schedule, 1 hour or 30-minute blocks for calls, meetings, appointments and decision making. Most powerful people operate on this manager's schedule. The maker's schedule is quite the opposite. The unit becomes larger. Your time slots are not 30 to 60 minutes long, but instead remain for at least half a day. Just this little difference in the approach leads to very different ways to work. Take the manager's schedule. When you use time that way, it's merely a practical problem to meet someone. Find an open slot in your schedule, book them, and you're done. However, you can't write or program well in units of an hour. That's barely enough time to get started. The opposite is true of the maker schedule. When you're operating on the maker schedule, meetings are a disaster. A single meeting can blow a whole afternoon by breaking it into two pieces, each too small to do anything hard in. Plus, you have to remember to go to the meeting. That's no problem for someone on the manager schedule. There's always something coming on the next hour. The only question is what. But when someone on the maker schedule has a meeting, they have to think about it. And this is so true and I feel very strongly about this. Every day that I have a meeting or even just a 30-minute call, I'm constantly thinking about this event. It's in the back of my head at all times and somehow becomes the focus of the day even if I know the call is not really that important. Paul Graham thinks the same way. I find one meeting can sometimes affect the whole day. If I know the afternoon is going to be broken up, I'm slightly less likely to start something ambitious in the morning. I know this may sound oversensitive, but if you're a maker, think of your own case. I always thought that I'm way oversensitive in that regard, but I recently find out that it's really not that uncommon. Ambitious projects are by definition close to the limits of your capacity. A small decrease in morale is enough to kill them off. Another observation I can underline with my own experiences. Usually I finish videos on the day I release them, doing the last few hours of editing. If I oversleep, however, for let's say 30 minutes and don't start at the time I wanted to start, this has such an impact that I often won't edit the video on the same day at all anymore. Instead, I just do some other minor tasks that are not really important and just make it through the day. Next morning, next chance. What the maker schedule allows you to do is uninterrupted, focused work. This is essential for about 90% of the things I'm doing. Researching and then writing video scripts, doing voiceovers, editing, coding, all of these require deep work, a concept I talked about in a previous video. The time I spend doing shallow work is actually very little. I don't write a lot of mails or need to answer lots of text messages or anything like that. So for me, the maker schedule is great, but there are also positives to the manager schedule that I'm missing out on. When you're operating on the manager schedule, you can do something you'd never want to do on the makers. You can have speculative meetings. You can meet someone just to get to know one another. If you have an empty slot in your schedule, why not? Maybe it will turn out you can help one another in some way. Meeting people for coffee or jumping on a call with someone just to connect is simply something I don't do, like at all. Since I started this channel, I got many interesting opportunities to get to know great people and I probably could have benefited from connecting with them. But the downsides of ripping my day apart are just so overwhelmingly strong to me. I think I sometimes come over as rude actually, when someone asks me to have a call because they have something interesting to share and I tell them that I won't join the call but stay on emails only. Maybe I can send them this video next time to better explain why. By reading Paul Graham's essay, I realized that this is not only a problem I have. Speculative meetings are terribly costly if you're on the maker's schedule, which puts us in something of a bind. Everyone assumes that we run on the manager's schedule, so they introduce us to someone they think we ought to meet or send us an email proposing we grab coffee. At this point we have two options, neither of them are good. We can meet with them and lose half a day's work, or we can try to avoid meeting them and probably offend them. Paul Graham saw a third option, writing about the manager's and maker's schedule to make others understand why he won't do the meeting. Maybe eventually, if the conflict between the manager's schedule and the maker's schedule starts to be more widely understood, it becomes less of a problem. One thing that's prevalent and to be honest somewhat scary to me is that with increasing success everyone somehow turns into a manager. Is there really no way, for example, to lead a company on a maker's schedule? I think Elon Musk can be a role model here. His schedule involves a great deal of managing as the head of multiple major companies, but he also spends an estimated 80% of his time on designing and engineering. 80%, that's pretty nice. Let's push it to 95%. I guess to make that work, everyone needs to be knowing what to do and have full responsibility of their respective roles. I think companies without real managers are possible with the right moral and vision alignment and self-sufficient employees. Maybe that's just a hope I have, because I do want to build a company, but I don't want to manage people, just as much as I don't want to be managed. It has to be possible, and I think it is. Take Gumroad. They don't do any meetings, no one has deadlines, and all employees are working only part-time so they can build something on their own as well. Replies to messages are not expected within minutes, but within days. The first time I read this blog post, I was blown away. It's so different compared to what you believe a company is. It's also interesting how Gumroad became that way, because that is very similar to why I think about this. This is what the founder said. For me, it was no longer about growth at all costs, but freedom at all costs. Working at Gumroad is like working on an open source project, but it's not open source and the work you do is paid. And guess what? It's working. Our creators earn over $170 million a year and we generate $11 million in annualized revenue, growing 85% year over year. This is what Gumroad's Chris Maximin says. This way to work is responsible for the highest level of productivity I've ever experienced. The ability to focus on actual work creates a virtuous cycle benefiting both the company and the workers. First, the company does not have to pay expensive engineers to sit around in endless useless meetings. And second, the engineers get to do more and learn more, which benefits them in the long term. Everything is handled this way. Support, risk, content, growth, product prioritization, board decks, design feedback, and more. So to me there is some hope that it might not be all that necessary anymore to turn into a manager, whether you're a technically minded founder, a content creator, designer, etc. I suspect founders may increasingly be able to resist, or at least postpone, turning into managers, just as a few decades ago they started to be able to resist switching from jeans to suits. I want to end with one of Sahil's statements of his blog post, because I believe there's a lot we can learn from it and a lot to think about what a business in the future should or can look like. Recently I pitched the whole company about going full-time, because it felt wrong to grow any larger without full-time staff. Nobody accepted. The deal we already had in place was better for what our people prioritize: freedom over growth, sustainability over speed, life over work. The internet has enabled new ways of working, but we're just starting to see them unfold. There are a lot of different ways to make work work. Ours is just one. If you made it through all of this, I guess you are interested in building and making things yourself. I will start a second channel very soon in which I will document how I'm building a software as a service based company. If you are interested in learning from my coming failures, you can already head over there and subscribe to the channel. That's it for this video. I hope you took something out of it. I'm also interested in your point of view about the managers and makers schedule, on which one are you on, and if you enjoyed the video I would also appreciate it if you leave a like and subscribe to the channel for further content, and then I see you next time.